Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Eliana Aaron, Director of Care. I hope everyone is doing well. I wanted to bring you the most recent updates and to review some of the numbers for today. I'm going to have all of the usual graphs, and I'm going to explain it verbally. The Prime Minister spoke today and implemented some significant changes to what's going on here in Israel. First of all, we have some good news. I'm going to attach some information, but I'm going to go ahead and share that so you could see what's going on. Israel, by the Deep Knowledge Group, which is a well-known organization that evaluates the through artificial intelligence and the deeper knowledge of the healthcare systems, able to do an analysis about coronavirus health safety countries ranking. And Israel came out as the number one, as you can see right here, right before Singapore, actually. So if you take a look down here, unfortunately, the US is down here, and then other countries are even further down. So that's a moment of pride for us that what we are doing was early, what we are doing was proactive, and that even though we are seeing more cases, even though more people are dying, that relative to the world, we are doing very well, and people are recognizing that. Furthermore, he even said that Israel was asking for $2 billion of credit for the economic stabilization because of this. And this is, I've never heard of this happening, but they were offered $25 billion of credit from different countries because people realize, based on this information that I just showed you, that Israel is actually the number one country in the world for coping with coronavirus, and we need to keep it that way. So I've never heard of a country asking for money and getting 12 and a half times what they were asking. So a moment of pride. We're very proud to be Israeli. Some of the more challenging things that we are facing includes a big uptick in the number of cases being seen in the ultra-Orthodox population or the Haredi population. They are making a lot of strides to change and to fix the problems that they have within their communities, but it might be a little bit late because we are already seeing that uptick. And so some extra restrictions are in place for Bnei Brak in particular, which is one of the cities adjacent to Tel Aviv. And that is going to actually be shut down to all in and out transportation. So it's going to be as a city on a quarantine. Anybody who needs to be in quarantine from Bnei Brak will be offered by the Ministry of Defense special hotels that have that will accommodate the Haredi population, that will provide them with that high level of kosher food and accommodation, so that people who are struggling to quarantine, and that is a very big problem, and I'll explain why in a minute, will be able to have a safe place to quarantine. So one of the problems in ultra-Orthodox, well, it's not usually a problem, but right now it's a problem, is that very large families and very small homes. So you have a lot of people living in small space. So taking a room for a quarantine is not usually possible. So what's happening is it's spreading in the community because you can't take, if you only have 2 rooms for 6 people, you can't take one for one person. There's just no place for anyone else to go. So they're trying to find solutions for these kind of problems, and the government is really making it a priority for the country. And again, accusations are not helpful. We know that the leadership in these communities are taking very active stances to spread information and education and to keep people safe, and they are very motivated to do that, and that is now a national priority, and we need to support these communities to get them where they need to be. So That being said, the government started coming out with cases per city, and I thought that would be an interesting thing to explain as well. I'm going to show that to you in a minute. So here we go. I'm going to share that with you. This is the infection rate by city, and you can see here that some of the hot spots that are currently going on is Bnei Brak, which is at almost 0.4% of the entire population now has been diagnosed, and that's as of today. Beit Shemesh, another area where there are a lot of ultra-Orthodox, and they are about 0.25%. There's also Migdal HaEmek, which is in the north, and Efrat, which is a modern Orthodox community in Gush Etzion, and they're at 0.54%. And those were almost all diagnosed related to Purim exposures. So very important to keep that in mind. And but that's a very different community than what we're concerned with. There are a few communities that the government is particularly concerned with. One of them, of course, is Bnei Brak, and another is Beit Shemesh, and there are others as well. So this is a good way for us to keep track of what's going on with these communities and to see where the hotspots are in the country. And you can see most cities have a pretty low rate. And then when it goes to some of these places, you got to put that fire out before it spreads too much. So that's why we're seeing this. Now, the Prime Minister also has new policies in place besides the specific issues going on in Bnei Brak. The number one thing that's going to affect everybody is that everybody's required to wear a mask in public. So if you're outside of your house, you need to have a mask on to reduce potential transmission from you to someone else. If you don't have a mask, wearing a scarf is okay. They're encouraging people to make homemade masks, and there's going to be a video on the Ministry of Health website on how to do that. And really putting anything in front of your nose and mouth reduces transmission because any kind of material you have there will capture most of your respiratory droplets. And again, what we also discussed in previous videos is that there's a new study that came out of MIT that shows that COVID can actually spread up to 8 meters or 27 feet. So capturing that and not letting it out into the world is going to greatly reduce our transmissions. And so that's what we just all have to do. The other new thing that happened today is that anyone coming back to Israel does not go into quarantine in their home, but will be sent to one of the hotels that's been taken over by the Ministry of Defense for the purposes of their quarantine. So they're actually not going to be going home, they're going straight to these specific hotels. And again, the fact that we are so proud to have people who want to come back to Israel, and the world is now recognizing that Israel is in fact the safest harbor, the safest haven, not just for Jews, but really for the world. We're number one in the world right now. We want to stay that way. And just a lot of pride that we are here. And of course, the government says we want all of the Israelis to come back. And to be here, and they're welcome to come back. So that's really nice. That's great. And we're trying to take care of them as best as we can. The fourth thing that was new today is that the government's going to be giving a subsidy of 500 shekels for families that have a child up to 4 children. So 500 shekels per child to be deposited into the bank, and 500 shekels for any older person that will be added to their government pension fund. Again, directly in the bank, no paperwork at all. They're reducing the age limit for independents, people who have independent companies. They can get either the grant or loans or whatever the package is going to be. Eventually, they are trying to change that. The last thing, which is going to be also something that affects everybody, is that Pesach is going to be celebrated where you are right now. There's no more moving around. There's no more going to other people's homes. Pesach is going to be in the family unit that you have now. If you have kids in college who have not come home yet, they can't come home. They have to spend Seder where they are. And they have to spend the holiday where they are. And I think I'm quoting the prime minister when I say Seder Katan hu Seder Batuach. So a small Seder is a safe Seder. No grandparents, no invitations. And and he actually recounted that in the time of the original Passover story, when we were slaves in Egypt, that God told the Jews, if you stay in your homes, then the angel of death will not harm you, and no evil will come to you if you stay in your homes. So looks like we're going to be in the same places we were all those thousands of years ago. So it was interesting to see the prime minister talk about our biblical roots like that. So difficult times. There's a lot of reason for us to be hopeful, and I want to make sure that you have that as well. The fact is that Israel is doing really well, as much as it pains me to see that we have more deaths and that we have more cases. We have a lot of signs of hope here. We are doing very well, and the people are following this. People are following the hygiene, the social distancing. We did it early, we did it well, but it's too early for us to relax. We are still seeing upticks, but there are long-term signs of a slowdown here in Israel. So that's really good for us to look forward to and be hopeful about. But on the other hand, it's very important to realize that it's too early for us to lower our guard. We must continue and even strengthen the things that we're doing to push this thing down, to push this pandemic down, and to keep us the best, safest country in the world. And it's going to require every single person in Israel to follow these regulations to the T, to keep faith that we're protected, that God is protecting us, and that these are our challenges right now, but in the end, we are going to overcome this, and we will be successful, and we will keep our population safe. So I'm going to have another video later explaining today's changes statistically, but I wish everybody to stay healthy, to stay safe, and to stay home. Take care.